Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us. I'm joined here with Adriana. Recently, we got the opportunity to ask a local expert on climate change some questions regarding the multiple topics within the study of climate change. Dr. Husick is the Dean of School of Nature and Health Sciences at Moravian College, where she teaches courses in biology and environmental science. She is involved in many studies and research projects, including the ecological restoration of a contaminated site, ecological monitoring of mountain landscapes in the portion of the Appalachian Mountains in Pennsylvania, and the greater Yellowstone ecosystem and Rocky Mountains. She also has done extensive research on how forest habitats, birds, and pollinators are responding to climate change and other environmental threats. Locally, she works with nature centers and nonprofits to develop informal education programming on a number of environmental and sustainability issues. The first question we posed to Dr. Husick was, what are some, if any, viable alternatives to the burning of fossil fuels that would create the same amount of energy without the negative impact to the climate?
A difficult question, since almost any form of energy generation will have some environmental impacts or risks, although many are much better in terms of impact on climate. If you think about investments, agriculture, or ecology, diversity is good. Example is in portfolios, in crop varieties, or biodiversity. The same should be true for our energy generation. Solar, wind, hydro, and nuclear can all be used to generate electricity with little to no carbon emissions. 3 are renewable energy sources, which is a plus, but each comes with some consequences or downsides. Solar capture has come a long way, but we still aren't able to store the energy very well. Much research is being done in that area, and it has been exciting to see how solar has brought electricity to many developing areas, especially in Africa.
So the second question we posed to Dr. Husick was, there are a number of different effects global warming has on the climate. What are some of the most alarming effects and one that pose the biggest threat?
It depends on where you are. Overall, warming is ultimately going to be problematic everywhere in terms of human health, changes to ecosystems, negative impacts on biodiversity, etc. If you are in a dry region of the world, the expectation is that these areas will get drier, so water shortages will become increasingly problematic, and many fear future water wars. If you live in an area prone to severe storms like hurricanes and cyclones, then increasing strength of these storms in terms of wind speed and the increased water associated with them is a huge threat. Consider the cyclone that recently hit Mozambique, or the impact of Hurricane Maria on Puerto Rico. And these are just the impacts on climate, not to mention the changes in sea level rise, ocean acidification, and so forth.
If everything continues the way it is going and no real changes are put into place to at least slow down the rapid change in global temperature, rising, and climate, what are some of the possible implications in the foreseeable future, namely when speaking of humans' habitat?
Well, I argue that biodiversity in general should be our main focus over humans. But focusing on humans and realizing that the impacts will differ dramatically depending where you are from and how resilient your city, country, etc. is. These are the things that I am most concerned about, such as health-related issues such as spread of disease, heat stroke, and so forth. The World Health Organization actually has an entire special report on the health problems related to drastically changing climate. But some of the other problems include water and food insecurity, droughts, salt intrusion into the water table, etc., loss of land suitable for growing crops, rapid declines of fish and other aquatic food sources, which are major protein sources for much of the world's population. Sea level rise, especially for coastal areas in small island nations. Most scientists think it is impossible for us to limit warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius. If we go above that, it is a death sentence for many. All of these will lead to forced displacement of people, adding to our burgeoning refuge populations, and all are likely to lead to conflict.
And finally, the fourth question we were able to ask Dr. Husick was, glacial retreat seems to be much more significant part of the whole than is talked about. What are some specific threats that it poses both in its immediate vicinity as well as globally?
It turns out that I will be in the high Andes in Peru this summer, where the glaciers have receded faster than just about anywhere. The annual melt from these provided water supply for people and the water in lakes in areas where livestock, cattle, and apica grazed. The areas are drying up, so people will lose their livelihoods. The seasonal melt from the Himalayas feeds some of the major rivers of the world, which in turn are not only sacred, but provide the water supplies for billions of people in Asia. But loss of glaciers will change the geology and ecology of the planet in many ways, many of which we probably can't totally predict. But we do know that they will contribute to changing weather patterns, loss of biodiversity, and sea level rise.
We thank Dr. Husick for her time and the information she provided to us.
We hope this message has helped to educate you on the dangers of climate change.
Thank you.